And here we are yet again and once again for another time to be able to congregate together and to be able to express and explore and share here at GatherVerse Youth Summit, Week 2, Day 5, our final day. We're coming off the heels of an extraordinary series of expressions given over the past 2 weeks of leaders assembled from around the world that come to speak from their heart and experiences. But moreover, with a dedicated and unified sense of at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, that we be ever mindful, when afforded the opportunity, of how we present what it is that we innovate to our youth. Just as when you and I came onto the scene, in whatever year, month, and day that was, we inherited innovations that were built on the shoulders and the labors of others. Most of what was handed down was not given an instruction manual. And giving the accelerated rate at the hyperscale of artificial intelligence and several other emerging technologies that are bringing us further into the material layer to the virtual layer, there is a profound need and a sense of trust that's needed. That we believe at GatherVerse that you can be safe and accelerate at the same time. We say this because we've never been this way before. It's not any longer acceptable to say that we're heading into frontier intelligence. We're in the frontier now. It's an uncanny valley. It's wild. The frontier has no rules. There is no designated path and clear projection. It's filled with all types of obstacles and challenges to meet us out the way. My peers, younger, older, multi-generation, are having a difficult time entering into frontier intelligence, an innovative scale. Tens of thousands of startups are forming daily. Some not by choice, for many a plan B. It's the only option. With workforces around the world receding, with available and sustainable opportunity, we'll continue to see more innovators come into the frontier. The graduating students of 2025, many who will be met with a job market that's topsy-turvy, uncertain, and ungrounded. Many of them will enter into the frontier. Yet there are those of us who've come to arrive to be able to speak here at GatherVerse Youth Summit 2025, Week 2, Day 5, our final day, as pioneers. You may have been in the frontier for one day. Consider yourself a pioneer. You may have been in the frontier for much longer than that. Consider yourself a pioneer. Imbued and inherit with the responsibility to serve as a North Star for those to come. It's just that quite simple. That our youth are inheriting the innovations that we innovate today, tomorrow. And at GatherVerse, we meet at the intersection of accessibility, education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, ethics, care, and compassion. We do this freely. Our 31st Global Summit event. There are many that doubted that we could do this. There are many have doubted that we could sustain. Only but by grace are we even to be able to arrive with you today. We do this because we care. If not us, then who? We do this because there's a community that's backing us as well. And they've showed up today. Leaders and experts assembled from around the world, and they have something to share. Won't you take time to share with what it is that you've heard today with others, your neighbor, your colleagues, your friends, a stranger? Let them know that there were women and men that showed up on GatherVerse Youth Summit, Day 5, because no child should ever be left behind. We have an incredible roundtable that we're about to enter into, led by Lynn Jatau of GatherVerse. May our gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to the first panel for GatherVerse Youth Summit Day 5. I must say I'm really impressed by the progress we have made, and this is the final day. Christopher, thank you for that powerful introduction. And we're going to kick off with a roundtable titled Tomorrow's Promise: Securing Emerging Technologies for Generations to Come. With me, I have a roster of leaders, and I kindly request you to introduce yourselves, tell us who you are and why you're here briefly. And I shall start with you, Donna, since you're the only female in my panel. So, Donna, tell us who you are. The mic is yours. Then we come to you, Randall, then Brian.
Well, good
Okay,
morning,
Donna.
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud
Okay,
and clear.
wonderful. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dana Jewel Harris. I'm the Executive Director of the Next Steps Youth Entrepreneur Program. And I'm here today to introduce a new platform that allows students to not only engage in the technology transformation that's happening in communities, but take control of it. A couple of years ago, I am a farmer. And back when digital badges were a thing, back in 2012, I started creating a digital badging system for my farm because I used to farm to teach kids business strategy. And so when you take those kind of basic skills and apply it to an economic development format, that's how we get to smart cities and really start helping kids understand algorithms from an economic development standpoint with something as simple as planting or growing and building. So I'm here today to help make the transition from of having a foot in the digital world and keeping a foot in the real world so that we maintain the human side of AI, human technology, humanistic technology.
Wow, impressive. I love farming too. We're very happy to have you here. Randall, over
Mhm.
to you.
Hello, pleasure to be here today. I sure appreciate the opportunity to talk with folks. In my role, I'm the industry director for telecommunications at a company called Esri. Esri's we work with just about every industry globally. In my role, I get to teach a lot, and I get to work with a lot of different people in a lot of different places in their careers. Some learning new technology, some have been in the business 30 plus years and might be apprehensive to change. Others are coming straight out of school. It's exciting to get to be in that environment when I'm not at work. I'm on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Southern California. So I personally have been a big for over 13 years. So I think it's really important that we work with folks at any generation really to show them what's capable, what they can do in their lives, help them learn new things, and not just safeguard their careers, but also maybe have a little better way of life. So thanks for having me.
Yes, we're very happy to have you here. Brian, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm Brian Juracek. I'm the founder and CEO of a company, Parallel Worlds. Parallel Worlds works with a lot of the technologies that we just discussed and some of the information and data that Randall has at Esri. So we create digital twins and hemisphere level digital twin scaling, or in other words, we link the physical and digital at a city scale, and we have a digital twin of New York City thanks to all the great information data that Esri has gathered over the years that we poured over into spatial computing environments to better connect with individuals to reshape their reality. So we hope to introduce immersive media where we can help brands better connect with consumers and activate them more as prosumers or producer consumers, where you're not so much a passive observer of your favorite things and cultures and brands. You become a part of it, and that creates a more sustainable and healthy economic system, and new business models can emerge. So that's what we're very much interested in, and a lot of that is education. So education is as much the product right now as anything else, right? So thank you.
All right, Brian, we're very happy to have you once again here. We appreciate everyone's presence here. And my name is Nengitao, Communications Director for GatherVerse, and I will be your moderator for today. And let's just begin, right? Can we begin, panelists? Shall we? All right. Yeah, so Brian, I just want to start with you because last year we had a summit called Safety Summit. And one of the biggest concerns we had is cybersecurity threats. And I'm just boiling it down to the youth. We had it in general, but let's just boil it down to the youths today. And how do we balance the need for technological advancements with the responsibility of mitigating cybersecurity threats in an increasingly connected world? And as I mentioned earlier, boil it down to kids. We had an example one of the days, perhaps last week, where there was a child who killed himself because of a conversation with a machine. And perhaps that's the only case we've had. There are probably a lot of such cases happening out here. And there's so many threats increasingly in this connected world. So, Brian, I want to hear your thoughts, and I'd also want to hear your thoughts, Randall and Daniel. Let's just have a conversation about cybersecurity here. Brian.
Sure. Well, number one, there will always be incidents, right? There will always be things out there, and the media will definitely draw those things to the surface. So we have to be prepared that there is no silver bullet to any of this kind of human behavior, right? So we can create systems that are interesting and doing better on those principles, but we have to want to do better, right? And that want to do better has to be grounded in a lot of research and understanding what has come before and how we can improve upon those things within the context of what our current legal and regulatory environments are. So that's one thing that I have seen kind of a big problem with is a lot of times tech forward folks will run with something and not really pay attention to all the legal and regulatory frameworks that govern those things, especially when it comes to younger individuals. So I'll give an example. We were just recently developing something for a Fortune 500 company that is deploying this with children under 13. So COPA compliance comes into play there. You have to institute the correct data procedures or having parental consent. And there's creative ways that we can go about doing that are transparent, safe, and allow parents to have an understanding of what their kids are getting involved with, while also allowing people to use these new technologies. So that would be my thoughts on it.
Yes, and I do agree with that, and I heavily back up what you just said. Parents should be aware about what their kids are engaging in. Randall, do you want to build on what Brian has to say?
Happy to.
Yes, please do.
You know, I'll take it a step further in some of the things we see here at Esri and some of the things I've coached businesses and people on. we have a lot of things that we use in our lives on our phones and on our machines where we've become accustomed to seeing a piece of software that we want. We download it, we use it. Raise your hand in your own office, wherever you are in the world, if you've read the user level agreement to everything you've ever put on your phone. Like most people, you might look at the permissions if you're downloading something, say from Apple, but for the most part, you see something, you know it's going to improve your life in some way, shape, or form, you use it. When we translate that behavior, which might be okay in some ways in your personal life, but like Brian's saying, is you do introduce risk where now you are the product of the company that is wanting your information, they're wanting your behavior, they're wanting to learn from it. That data goes someplace, right? And that data is used by people. Maybe they don't specifically care about who you are, but rather your age and your demographic and where you come from, stuff like this. When we translate that into the business world, what we see now with folks who are digital native, as opposed to somebody that is close to retirement, the behavior of thinking I got to be secure in my actions first, not give away company secrets, trade secrets, or institutional intellectual property or that sort of thing. We counter a lot of people that see a free piece of software that they know will help them in their role. They ingest that into their business system. They use it on their team, but they don't really understand. I'm putting a tremendous amount of business knowledge and institutional knowledge, intellectual property, and giving away a lot of trade secrets.
Mhm.
So when we think about now this advancement in AI, whether it's generative or machine learning or one of its many different forms, the desire to succeed and the desire to accomplish and these thought patterns that come from our own games and things we've played in our life translates into the workspace. And next thing you know, somebody is doing an amazing job and not realizing the impact of what they're giving away. So
Yes.
I take pause in what you're doing and think about, oh, should I be doing this? And who owns that data?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Donna, please add your thoughts.
Yes. So over on our side, I'm working with an amazing team called Research X Labs, and we are creating a platform called CityNet. And we're pairing it with a game-based learning management system I created based on the best practices of my firm called Community on Demand. And through CityNet and Community on Demand, we're creating a civic infrastructure that teaches youth to lead in a digital-first world. Our creative economy framework uses skill-based gameplay, service learning, and local project development to build ethical, secure, and inclusive systems. And now with new tools like digital collectibles, blockchain-backed credentials, and customizable avatars, we're empowering you to own their data, validate their impact, and help shape the future of ethical AI. So this isn't just about teaching you to use tech, it's about training them to govern it, to design, secure, and ethically grow the systems that will define their futures. So with CityNet and Community on Demand, we want to create new Web3 powered features and allowing kids to build that future now. So, everybody wants cool new tech features. They want the fast AI. They want the connected devices, but every new connection or feature can be a potential door for hackers, right? So as we're building security in layers, we're building it from the beginning and not try to bolt it on later on. So we're calling that like zero trust architecture. And when they request, let's say an example with the game, when they request to update a skill card, because the game has skill cards and it does the skills assessment, those skill cards must be authenticated and authorized. So we're not just trusting, anything. The trust is being built from the inside. And we try to teach the kids, like, it's like designing a modern car. You want powerful engines and cool infotainment and advancements, but you also need to build in airbags and anti-lock brakes and crumple zones and security systems, which is literally cybersecurity from the start. So we're teaching cybersecurity, ethical AI from the very beginning, but we're gamifying it so that it becomes a natural habit instead of something they have to learn and prepare for later on.
Yes, powerful. I totally agree with your model, and I kind of think advocate for it in every educational institution, starting from the beginning. Randall, you mentioned something when you told us to raise our hands if we read the terms and conditions, and definitely I can suspect a majority of us, our hands are down.
No.
But I just have a follow-up to that. When you look at the terms and conditions of every company that comes out there in this digital space, it's long.
Yeah.
It's tiresome. The jargon there is very tech, and it's the jargon there is not for layman's language. So when you just see all that, and your mind is like, am I gonna take my time to read all these terms and conditions? And definitely your mind wants to go straight to the point. So how do we maneuver such a situation whereby we don't want to read these terms and conditions, not because we don't want to, but because it's long, we don't have the time. The jargon there doesn't really suit us. Please tell us what you think.
In my role, I get to travel around the world, and I'm blessed to get to do it. In the past 2 months, I've been speaking at conferences and listening to a lot of presentations in Barcelona, in Amsterdam, and in Frankfurt. Then a smattering around the U.S. as well. And every one of these shows that are focused on technological advancement and how, as humankind, we can move forward in capabilities. This is something that comes up a lot. These user level agreements and these terms and conditions are often written in legal jargon and it's so long by design. Most people are not going to read it, and that's what a lot of companies, I hate to say it, that those contracts are for lawyers to lawyers. I'm a consumer. I just want my thing that's going to enrich my life and help me do what I'm doing. So I think what you have to do is it comes around a behavior of an individual's desire to expose their own information. What am I willing to give away, and what am I going to keep to my chest? And knowing my blood type, well, that's already out there on the web someplace because I donate blood. But what are you willing to give away? And these days, most of our data, unfortunately, is out there someplace. You just got to safeguard now yourself and say, well, how could it be maybe used against me? And then be prepared to mitigate that, I guess.
Yeah, that's
that was kind of a long answer, but I think ultimately it's about risk. What are you willing? What is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to just simply play a game, and de-stress, or are you trying to use a platform for business? Now, we work as Esri, we work from the United Nations, world governments, down to mom and pop shops delivering food. We work in every industry, and we see a lot of people using free GIS software. It's not free. The information you're putting into it, that company now owns, right? Whereas our company, you got to look for differences like this. Who's going to own the data that you're putting in it? Is it yours or is it yours? Now, we don't own anybody's data. We simply provide a software that allows people to do something in their life. I think that's something that you want to be able to look for in your life when you're choosing a game, if you're choosing even a GPS software to take you from point A to point B, a study, something to help you in your studies in college. Who's owning that data? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Randall, that was a very insightful response. And what I'm getting also from you is when you're giving out your data, I think it's good to balance. Is what I'm giving out proportionate to what I'm getting from the app or the application or the website? Is it proportionate to what I'm benefiting? So I couldn't ask for a better response than that. Thank you, Randall. Brian, I'm bringing this to you. With AI's model being trained on vast data sets. How do you secure the personal data of individuals today to prevent a long-term exposure to risks? And I also want you to boil down on kids as well, because there's a lot of last week, Christopher mentioned when he closed one of the panels that kids have now access to information than the adults. Kids have access to devices that the adults. What are they doing? So, Brian, please share your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, well, you have to create good data architecture. So companies who are engaging parties on mass scale should be creating very robust data architecture that has security and encryption mechanisms. So in other words, when that data is within their own domicile or digital domain, they make sure that no one penetrates it. And when that data is transferred to somewhere else, they need to make sure, right, that they encrypt it properly so that it's not intercepted, or if it is, that it's not interpretable. So there's definitely traditional means of security and encryption that's getting more and more robust by the day. We have new technological tools. As we know, quantum is the big frontier for how that will evolve when it comes to encryption over time. But we are already studying those things, right? So NIST already has post-quantum encryption under their finger, and we are evolving every day with those things. In addition to that, I want to go back to what we were just to briefly. We can present information to people in new and exciting ways where they can better interpret it and make decisions upon it. And I had somebody take a contract from me the other day and run through ChatGPT and literally email me back the response that GPT gave them. So people are already even getting savvier themselves and taking contracts and legal jargon, utilizing AI to cut through the noise and actually say, what is this really saying and what is the impact? That's my thoughts on that.
Yes. Interesting perspective. People are using AI to decode the legal jargon. I totally agree on that. Just shifting gears and then bringing you Dana on this. What proactive measures can you take today to prevent AI bias from becoming an inherited flaw in future technological advancements?
Well, one, because like Chris and Randall, we work with kids as well, and we work with families and communities. So we always have to think about what we're teaching and how we're navigating the conversations between these different stakeholder groups from their point of view, from their learned experiences. So, of course, the AI, if it's a learning language model, is going to take on these biases as well, outside of the biases from the programmers themselves. So the challenge comes where AI learns the data, right? And that data reflects these historical biases. And so we have to make sure we are monitoring whether it's racial, gender, economic, that the AI is also equipped with learning how to differentiate between or identify even what a bias is, including its own programming bias. So using diverse data sets, using audit models for fairness, and keeping the human existence involved at every step of the way. And I am a huge proponent of when people send me things and they want to a dev team wants to integrate components of community on demand. The first place I go to is ChatGPT and say, help me define the terms where they're mutually beneficial and not one-sided or have biases. And the other example would be like before deploying the AI, recommending the pathways, because I do use AI to customize learning pathways for our clients. We can use it, we can audit it using tools like FairLearn to check if the recommendations differ significantly based on demographics within our target group, what we're focusing on now, which are opportunity zones, and the residents and businesses that are affected with, all the policy that's affecting, everything happening within opportunity zones. So as we are creating training programs for these communities, we want to ensure that the training data includes residents from all the represented groups, that the human case managers review the AI suggested high risk flags, and everything is fair when it comes to just not assuming just because someone is unemployed or undereducated or presumed to be undereducated, that once we do a skills assessment, now we can integrate and upskill people into a STEAM ecosystem with a smart city solution. So you have AI again on one side, and you have the reality, the human experience on the other, and making sure that there is a fair and equitable approach to including the human side, so there are not biases against someone just because they are either on Section 8 or they have not been employed or they don't have technological skills and things like that.
Definitely. You know what stood up for me in what you were just expressing? One of the things is training AI to even detect its own bias. I think we need to get to that point, training AI to detect its own bias and bringing people from all over the world to be stakeholders, if I may say, or just get them involved in building these AI models. Because what happens when only one culture or one part of the world builds an AI, it definitely will be biased. And I don't see it being adopted with the whole world if you're being biased, if there's nothing that relates to where I'm coming from, to how I do things, to my culture. What is the importance for me to use your platform? So I totally agree with that. And I see a lot of companies coming up to tackle the bias issue. And there's so many conversations and we could go on when it comes to bias. Randall, did you have something to add on that? Please
Sure.
chime in.
Yeah, I think there's, as a society, in any role that we play, whether it's in our personal lives or at work, we got to look where AI should be used to do the heavy lifting for us, to take what I love about AI. Let's take, for instance, I've been in my career, I worked in telecommunications 25 years. I started analog, now I'm digital, right? So,
Wow.
and there's a lot of people that are that way. And so we're using tools to take some of the burden off of our teams and off of us in our personal lives so that we can spend our time where we should be spending it. When I think about things such as a hiring practice or a loan improvement process, now I study this stuff as part of my PhD work that I'm doing around AI and org development and business processes. I think there's things as a society we shouldn't be using AI for because it inherently doesn't add a bias to it. You're creating a plan. So if I'm applying for a job or I'm applying for a loan, you're starting to see people be apprehensive to put how long they worked at a job, when they graduated college, even the idea of putting your name on an application. It should not be about my name, where I come from, my age, or anything, but rather the skill set I have that I'm bringing to a role that you have open. And you're going to pay me commensurate to my experience and the worth I'm going to bring to your business. The same on loan approvals. This should be a very straightforward thing that a person is looking at, right? Same with a person should, I think, in some ways be, or a team of people looking at hiring as opposed to an AI that's maybe you're scrubbing, looking for, do they meet the skill set? But you got to eliminate date ranges of employment, where they're from, their name, because those type things, those identifiers inherently train bias into programs. So we see that work happening, and I've researched, a lot of things where banking industry is working to eliminate bias, employment practices, etc. So I think we just got to be smart about where we use them and how we use them. AIs can replace doing some significant work for us, but we got to be careful where we apply it and not just hit the easy button.
Yes, where we use them really matters. I want to shift gears to deepfakes, and I'm coming to you, Brian, as well. You know, there's something interesting that is happening nowadays in the internet. There's so many deepfakes, and I'm just so sorry to say that, but a lot of people cannot detect what's a deepfake email, what's a deepfake image, what's a deepfake voice. There's so many people who can't tell, and we can't ignore that fact, especially right now when the capabilities of AI are becoming very unimaginable. So, Brian, with deepfakes technology and misinformation rising, how do we protect the integrity of digital content for future generations? And I also want to mention an example where something tragic happened last week where the Catholic Society lost the Pope, and there are so many fake photos of him that was spread even during that time, and I couldn't imagine what more can happen in the future. So, Brian, please take us through what you think.
Yeah, that's a really complicated and nuanced thing, but I can give somewhat of an answer to it. This is a huge problem. Probably the largest problems we face right now is the inability to authenticate information and assets. That's something that I'm super passionate about, and bridging that to physical goods as well. You probably remember last time we talked, and I always do. I have microchips on my and I put microchips in physical things to better understand how they're moving throughout those systems, whether they're physical or digital. But authentication of information and assets, when it comes to our largest social platforms, it falls on them, and shame on them, because Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok, all these platforms, they have not prioritized our safety. And we need to call that out, and we need to call that what is at the moment, that they have not prioritized our safety, and they've done it in the service of free, right? It's not our job to tell people what to say and what to do, but it is your job to keep people safe. So one thing that is not subjective is safety. We've determined that around the world. We put laws in place, and we say, hey, you got to keep people safe, right? That's not something that's subjective. We need to do better with utilizing the beautiful tools at our behest to keeping people safer by providing at least a baseline recommendation of this is machine made or this is human made. This is what you think you're looking at, or this is not what you think you're looking at. It's okay to have the tabloid magazine if we know it's a tabloid magazine, right? And then up to that particular venue if it's appropriate or not. But the truth is that we can easily forensically determine whether AI has created something or not. There is a very simple procedure, a number of different tools that you can stack on them to understand whether something has been manipulated or not. In fact, we've done it multiple times. So this is something that is, the problem is our inability to prioritize putting those measures in place in our largest social platforms would I be the first place to start.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. Randall, I see you nodding to that, and Dana, perhaps you want to add something to that. But Randall, I want to hear from you. Please tell us what you think.
Yeah, I love what Brian said. I look forward to hearing what Dana's saying as well. But safeguards, absolutely. We got to think about safety. And I think one of the biggest things we can do to keep our generation safe is look at something and be skeptical in some ways. The old adage that I learned in the military, trust but verify, I think that needs to exist and be taught at a very young age. Just because you see it doesn't mean it may or may not be real. So check for a second a source before letting it control how you feel or act in this world. I think as we see, and you mentioned earlier, the person that took their own life because of a conversation they were having with AI, we got to teach ourselves and our kids and future generations that Well, it's okay to talk to other people. You know, you got to have safety in the community, and don't isolate. Don't just trust something because it's on the internet. You mentioned, Lynn, earlier, you mentioned the culture that something's from. We now have when we think about sovereignty of nations or cultures, those walls have been broken down by social media platforms, and now people have the ability to post things from around the world as though they're in the country or in that city. So you have to, in a way, take a skeptical approach. Almost anything on the internet I think of as entertainment first, information second, you know, because I want to trust it. I really want to trust it, but I got to verify it before I let it influence me.
Wow. Let me just echo what you have said. Entertainment comes second, education comes first. Did you say that? Please come again. I found that very profound.
Yeah, I was just saying entertainment's first. I take everything on the internet with an entertainment kind of value, and then education second, because there's so much misinformation or deep fakes or things that are truly created to entertain. I mean, think about TikTok or Instagram, TikTok, other platforms. When I'm flying, traveling, or just can't sleep at 2 a.m, I might be looking at some of these incredibly funny videos. And it's world leaders from, you know, all over the place. It's people that have done things, and then I'm like, yeah, it can't possibly be real. And then you look at it, yeah, no, it's not. So like Brian said, there's tools to do that. I think those tools should be integrated into platforms as you post something to Instagram, for instance. If it's a deep fake or it's generated by AI, there's a watermark that a consumer cannot eliminate.
Absolutely.
It just states this is AI generated.
Yes, yes. I want to. Oh yeah, I was about to say he hit it. Both of the gentlemen, because that's the thing why we are really stressing service learning, and again, just making sure kids do not grow up in isolation. You have to. It's okay to have a foot in the digital world, but also keep that other foot grounded in community, and so you're not isolating and only getting confusing entertainment with reality. And it, like Randall said, it's about having these digital watermarks and signatures, where almost like a ledger, like cryptocurrency and blockchain, where you're tracking the provenance and the history of what you're doing, or even being able to track where that content came from, so you can literally trace back to see where it originated. So what we're toying around with two things that we're baking into CityNet, and that's one, making sure when the kids are uploading content to their Canvas, their project photos or whatever, we're teaching them to embed metadata that indicates source and time, and those come with pictures and things anyway, but a lot of times we don't take the time to populate that information. So I'm stressing the importance of putting that information in so that it'll verify authenticity later on. The second thing that we're doing is we are creating official documents that's going to be uploaded in the CityNet platform, like permits or inspection reports or true capability reports, so that we could so the documents could receive a cryptographic hash that's stored immutably, again, like a blockchain ledger service, so that anyone can research and develop which chain it came from. So I'm in complete agreement. I was nodding when both of the guys were speaking. I'm like, yes, 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 yes.
May I quickly add one section? You spurred a thought, Dana. I think the other aspect of this is when people are posting content, we also need to educate and inform people about the comments on these platforms, and help people. And our platform should also identify bot accounts that have maybe one or two posts with thousands of friends and followers. That should be a giant red flag. And you see many of these comments that elicit tremendous emotional response in viewers of oftentimes an AI generated or some sort of fake video. And it influences so many people that just go and become unhappy or stressed out or what have you. So it's both sides of it. It's AI generated, and also, in a way, a machine learned or an AI generated now comment on a section specifically designed to create chaos in a way.
I agree. And can I add one thing to that?
One more thing.
Yeah, so one little thing. Yeah, and I think it goes back to the importance of teaching critical thinking, decision making, and creative problem solving skills. And again, that's where the service learning, the hands-on, working with family, friends, doing service learning, community service projects. So you can take what you learned from the internet, take the creativity that came from the AI or whatever entertainment experience you have, and now apply it to real work. Can you recreate it or can you demonstrate it? And then they'll understand, oh, this is impossible to do. It has. They'll understand it wasn't real. It was fake.
Yeah, strong perspectives there. I couldn't agree more. And we could go further with this, but let's just shift gears to autonomy. And Dana, you brought in the issue of blockchain. But Brian, as AI becomes more autonomous, how do we prevent future generations from becoming reliant on machine-driven decision makings?
Well, we're already pretty reliant on these things. So I think that's one thing we need to recognize, is that this is an evolution. I think Randall kind of said that at one point when he mentioned the analog, and we have to remain curious. And this is also what we're saying. We have to constantly remain curious for what comes next. And we need to measure these things over time. We talked about that with auditing, right? We need to be able to audit things and grow these things over time. However, one thing I would really stress is that right now we're having a lot of individual conversations with AI. So in other words, it's me telling my GPT, I want this presentation. I need this email written better. I need this. I need that. Do this for me. Do that for me. These are very individualized conversations. It doesn't create a better collective intelligence. We need to start chaining these things together, especially when you're applying AI in the operational context of a larger organization. You need to have AI capturing the workflow. It needs to understand the different participants and how those participants are working together. So in other words, when we build a rocket, there's sometimes like one person in that organization who actually knew most of the vital information about the architecture of maybe like one O-ring around the rocket that is vital, right? And that person dies. All of a sudden, the person that, and we've lost that piece of information, or how that piece of information or person interacted with those other parts of the system. So I think over time we have to evolve the way that we're having conversations with AI. And again, in our largest system sciences, when it comes to transportation, urban management, public health and safety, these are systems that we need to better understand collective intelligence and make sure we're not just having those individual conversations. And in that, we will better future-proof the entire architecture of how we evolve to allow AI to amplify our personhood.
Yes.
Hello, sorry about that. Lynn's having some technical difficulties. So I just thought I would quickly jump in. So Randall, what are your thoughts on what Brian just shared there? Could you
Yeah, happy to. We're in that fourth industrial revolution, right? And that is the biggest player in that fourth industrial revolution is AI. It's machine learning. It's what we have as society for generations have strived to do. We're bettering how we do business and what we can do and the kind of decisions we can make. It's human nature to take something, craft it, and try and do better. So what over reliant on machine learning decision making, it will be a very, very interwoven part of our lives as we move forward for generations. The thing that we got to do is not eliminate the person, right? How do we become overly reliant on machine-driven decision making? We just hit the easy button and let the machines take over. We've seen lots of movies of what that might look like, and there's reality in that. Okay, so there's risk in that. We're giving up our own personal sovereignty, if you will, to the control of whoever is creating that thing. We have to maintain our own our own spirit and our own ability to make a decision and say, is this right for me? Should I do this? Should I take a moment and have the courage to stick my neck out and my hand up and say, how this machine is coming to the decision it came to is wrong, and this is why. We have to make sure that our people have the courage to do that, and they have that inclusive and safe environment that allows them the opportunity to say, hey, this works for your culture and your background, but not mine, and this is why. Or, your generation was predominantly analog, mine is digital native. I don't know how to do what you're talking about.
Right.
We have to, that's how we do it. We keep the person in it.
I agree 1,000%. And to both Brian and Randall's point, this is why STEAM is so important. When we're teaching STEAM in schools, we're teaching, a lot of people think STEAM is to get kids to be scientists, to get them to be. It's just like, no, we want you to think like them. We want you to go through a process and figure out or find something that's broken or something that needs to be fixed or maintained or even built. But in order to do that, just like Randall and Brian said, you have to, still look at AI as if it's an assistant and not the actual solution. You have to have a certain level of curiosity about something in order to ask AI, put these prompts in to where instead of it giving you this one answer, because that's what it's programmed to do, whereas Google gives you a million responses, AI is designed to give you one, to narrow it down and control the conversation. So when we're designing this AI learning language model, or we're teaching kids how to engage with AI, think of it as an assistant, not as the director, so that they are not easily, giving the robot permission to replace it. And so, and that's just where, for an example, when you make a suggestion or a prompt to a course question or something, you want AI to make recommendations for you to think about, what are my options? But again, it's going to give you three, right? ChatGPT is amazing with giving you three. But then I would say, well, based on what you know about me or how I think, or based on this situation, you start giving these other experiences to AI so that it keeps you engaged and allow you to think along with this AI assistance, and not just take AI for just what it gives you first. Like, okay, done, next. That's lazy intellect,
I totally agree, Dana, and we could go a distance with this. And what you all just mentioned is quite profound and a very intriguing thought to think about. When we're talking about STEAM, I never saw it in that angle until you brought it out. STEAM is for helping kids to think like scientists, right? And it's very important in this era. Brian, as we go towards the end of this discussion, how can we establish a global standard for ethical AI that values cultural diversity and human progress? And everyone can chime in on this as well, but let's be quick and brief. So Brian, the mic is yours.
Yeah, briefly, I would say that we need to increase everyone's access to information and knowledge and these technologies, right? So the way we get more diverse and global input is to get these things in people's hands, right? Let people feed the system, right, with their diverse perspective, and allow AI to sort through that. And then we have to, again, institute good measures for growing those over time, auditing those systems, and making sure that those perspectives are being weighed properly. In addition to that, I think we need to make it a part of just how we do business. Like Randall was saying, we are now in IP, or in intellectual property economies, right? That's what the creator economy is. Now information is the currency, right? So as we continue to build AI into our largest system of commerce, we need to have fun with it, and we need to include all of those other individuals. And that could start with just basic telecommunication infrastructure around the world. There's a lot of different elements of this, but that's my thought.
Yeah, well put. Randall, over to you.
Yeah, I think it starts with us. It starts with individual users. It starts with people from the ground up. I think if you rely on somebody who already is controlling something to create ethical standards and whatnot, there's risk in that, and that there might not everybody might not have a seat at the table. You might not have a complete representation of what you need to ensure that diversity and human progress is safeguarded with ethical use of AI. So I think it starts with all of us in our daily lives, giving feedback, speaking up, having a voice, and saying this is not okay, and then establishing there needs to be an organization that is diverse in culture and thought and technological capability and just ability of a person, that looks at how are we going to safeguard people and not just go after profit.
Totally. Let me just add a follow-up to that. When it comes to people having the voice and having one organization that will do this, we're looking forward to a place where we're going to have one body, one specific body that includes everyone around the world in creating a diverse and cultural polycultural AI culture. I'm really looking forward to that. And Dana, maybe you can answer that as we conclude this panel.
Absolutely. And again, to add on to what Brian and Randall said, it's about, developing the guidelines that strive for transparency, whether it's through model cards or, some type of documenting that gives the AI purpose, right? But also puts limitations and fairness checks along, its thought process as the program's algorithms are, taking all these inputs and putting in and creating all these outputs. So while the global standards evolve, we want to make sure we're committing to best practices that keep the community values not only identified, but keep the stakeholders engaged throughout every part or every time the AI learns something and evolves. Just making sure we are a part of that evolution and not just a benefactor of it.
Yes, absolutely. You know what? We have 1 minute to spend together, and maybe I just want to bring you, Brian, on this. Please use this well. We only have 1 minute. How do we mitigate the risk of AI hallucinations and misinformation corrupting historical records for future generations? And anyone can chime in as well. Randall, Brian, kind of very quick on this.
Yeah, this was mentioned multiple times, but new ways of categorizing, sorting, tracking, calling information like blockchain. And if we want to put centralized blockchain, as was mentioned, that can be transparent, immutable, and chronologically accessible to open. So there's better ways of doing these things. We, as Randall said, have the courage to do them and to hold the line to challenge others who may say, I don't know, that doesn't seem like it's going to make it right now.
Yes.
That's not always the way forward. We need to think about value, and value isn't always dollars. So that's that.
Yes. So maybe I can, Randall, quick thought.
I just think as a society, we've got to value knowledge. These tools are designed to eliminate the need for somebody to progress from knowledge through intelligence to wisdom. Like I'm a knowledge worker. I've worked 20 years and I've progressed to become this person that is a thought leader. Well, AI can replace a lot of what I do. Okay. But we got to safeguard the foundation by becoming almost obsessive about ensuring our knowledge, that foundation of intelligence and information is sacred. We gotta, it's not whose information is the right information. This is the right information to start from.
Yes, powerful. And unfortunately, we could go a distance with this. It's a very interesting conversation, close to my heart, and it affects the whole generations. And we could go, we could. But however, time is not on our side. It was such a lovely discussion having you, Dana, Randall, Brian. We look forward to having you back again. We have more gathers coming, and. Yeah, over to you, the GatherVerse team. Gather as well for this particular roundtable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.